have no idea where this will lead us, but I have a definite feeling it will be a place both wonderful and strange.
Hello, and welcome back to the wonderful and strange Twin Peaks Logcast. With me today is the devilish one to my face of God.
I don't know if this is better. I think you're getting better, but at the same time worse, because I feel pain in my head. I am the Unplugged Professor.
And speaking of pains in our heads, we are talking today about episode 2, which is the third episode, also known as Zen, or To Catch a Killer.
Ah, that's actually very nice. Did we even introduce you?
Oh, I'm Kalil.
Yep, he's Kalil. So, you want to start, Kalil?
Sure. So, I have a feeling...
This sounds more nonchalant.
No, it's very... All the chalants are not happening, but
okay.
This first point is going to lead us off into a very big tangent, and I think that's the way it just needs to happen. If you've recently just seen this episode, or you're listening to this but having seen the show a while ago, I think you'll instantly know which episode we're talking about, or the moment we're talking about as soon as I start here. And while it is, in terms of the runtime, maybe 5 minutes of the whole episode... you can't not start with it. So, the Red Room and the dream that Cooper had.
Oh, boy, yes. This was my
rip
beautiful...
the hinges off the Pandora's box here.
This was my beautiful mind moment. I needed some time to just kind of put all the pieces together and line up my various strings and pins and so on. So, yeah, let's start it. Let's go. So
our format is that we sit in the same room, we watch the show. Like I mentioned before, I've seen the show a few times, so I'll leave the pausing and a little more of the heavy-duty note-taking to my partner here, the Unplugged Professor. While I'll take some notes, it's mostly just things to start conversation, but I've already seen the show. I kind of know where it's going. So as we're going, the Unplugged Professor would pause it, and he'd take notes, and I'm kind of used to it. We got to 2 parts this episode where I think you took at least a half hour per part.
No. Like, maybe the first part about Tibet, half an hour. But this Red Room, that was a firm, hour, maybe hour and a half.
Right, so we're talking right now about 3 hours after we started this episode. So, just a little bit then in our process that I'll have some observations and thoughts, but this is really going to be something to dive into as far as a first-time viewer's response. Because... while the show's been weird up till this point,
yeah,
I think this is, can I just safely say, the weirdest moment in Twin Peaks?
I would say, yeah.
So far?
Yes, I would say. It's been blatantly strange, not weird. I use weird in the sense that there's a uncanny valley feel to this. Mm-hmm. We left the valley when we went to the Red Room.
Okay, and we're going to refer to it as the Red Room. There are different names you could call it, but I think that that's a fairly safe name that we'll both understand we're talking about.
It's less complex than my name that I wrote in my notes, Red Curtain Room.
Red Curtain Room, ooh. Another side note here, we're going to refer to the small man in the red jacket who has an affinity for dancing. Let's refer to him as the common name, the man from another place.
I will not remember that.
That is what he is called. That is his character name.
That is fine. I will not remember. I hardly remember Bobby.
Oh, you remember Snake, though.
Snake is just a clear one.
Okay, sure he is. We also have the one-armed man, who we can now interchangeably refer to as Mike.
Mm-hmm. Well, assumptively, I put in my notes as Mike, and he may have spoken to Mike. These, as far as from my perspective, can't be fully joined together. These might be disjointed instances. Without going too far into it, he was having strange flashes between things like the Red Room, this one strange man monologuing, as well as this person who could potentially be Bob.
And then the last 2 dream figures he encounters is someone who... previously we had seen in this denim jacket with long kind of gray-white hair, who we now have a name for as Bob. Mm-hmm. My name is Mike, his name is Bob. Some sort of relationship there.
Yep.
And we'll get to him obviously in a second.
Yep.
And then the last one is someone who looks an awful lot like Laura Palmer, supposedly the man from another place's cousin, who, looks like Laura Palmer, but sometimes her arms bend back.
Yeah, you're putting out all these points, and I have notes that can go in all sorts of directions here.
But I'm laying out a skeletal foundation.
The skeletal foundation.
When you're trying to build a good house of analysis, you build it on a firm foundation of bones.
You're building this on the back little activity sheet kids do at Applebee's.
So Yes. So what I think we should do is we should start with the beginning of the dream, work our way through, and let the conversation meander where it will.
Okay.
So we start with him lying down. There's like a thunderstorm or something going out where the light can flash through the window.
Yeah,
Cooper.
which I spent so much time, like the lights were flashing in ways that some were short, some were long, and they didn't exactly go too erratically. So I kept on thinking like Morse code, let me figure this out. Since I just kind of went to Morse code and I do not have much knowledge through Morse code.
So you're saying you're an expert?
No. Unfortunately, I couldn't gather anything from it. Maybe it was a sense of nonsense. I don't know. I have more details on that when we get back to Tibet.
Okay.
Okay.
And we'll obviously be alluding to Tibet, but that'll be a separate point.
Yep,
yeah.
Tibet.
So we get these flashes through the window as Cooper's sleeping, and we have a picture of Cooper in the red room. It'll then cut out to Mike and Bob, and then go back to the red room.
Which, by the way, this is an aged Cooper. Like,
correct.
You could see effectively like drier skin. You could see flicks of gray inside of his hair. This is not the Cooper that we currently know presently, or kind of is. That's a hard place to be. But he's an old man in potentially his own head.
Right. And so the first time we see the red room, he's sitting in the chair. There's these red curtains all around behind. Mm-hmm. The floor is this chevron kind of spiky pattern. There's 2 couches, red as well, I believe. Cooper is sitting in one, I think it's an armchair, and then there's the one next to him. I believe at this point it's unoccupied the first time.
Okay.
I believe.
I can't remember. Was it like 2 couches? Because I was thinking like I remembered it as
He's like an
2
armchair.
I thought there were 3 chairs, and with a statue between.
Maybe.
Fake
I thought
Laura and
I'm remembering
Man from
it.
Space.
Yeah, I'm remembering it as a couch, but it might have been 2 chairs. And then there's like 2 light fixtures on either side.
Yep.
And at this point, I think they have a little bit of brief moment of Man from Other Place with his back turned toward the camera, kind of like shuffling and shaking.
Yeah, I'd say like shaking, twitching, potentially a shuffle, but it's certainly a fun shuffle.
Somewhere in between a dance craze and an insect molting. Mm-hmm. I think that's all that's really established the first time we see the red room. Mm-hmm. No one said anything yet. It's obviously weird visually. It's such a striking difference from the... You talked a little bit, I know we saved it off of the podcast, but you were talking about the lighting a little bit in this episode being different than the previous ones.
Yes.
I think that contrast is even further heightened once we get to the red room, where there's so much of this dark red and bright red and just red color versus the kind of more muted browns, natural lighting of the outdoors. I
think that overall, lighting can really lead the viewer in how they kind of watch things. Things with brighter lights, you can usually have more of a relaxed position, just kind of taking it in because all the details are there. When things go darker, especially within the red room,
or in the forest,
or yes, effectively you end up kind of leaning in and trying to make out the said details. I think less so in the forest and more in the red room because there's a subtle sense of darkness, while the deep darkness inside the forest it doesn't feel as much like I have to try to make out more details. It just simply is darkness.
So we have our initial image of the red room. Then it cuts to the one-armed man starts doing a narration, right? And I didn't write the whole thing down. Maybe you did, maybe you didn't. But this moment where it's the one-armed man facing toward the camera, right? And saying how there's this magician between 2 worlds calling out, right? Fire walk with me.
Yeah.
Which I told you before, that's the name of the Twin Peaks movie we'll eventually watch later. It's been a note that was left at the crime scene, basically. It obviously has some sort of importance. And we've talked a bit about how fire as a theme has been consistent.
Oh, yeah. Not only that, but effectively, a magician calls out to be. This could be a reference towards how he was compelled to come into the scene. We saw him about last episode where he was just making his way towards, what was the room called again?
Red room?
No. The surgery room. Like he was walking down the hallway in the hospital.
Yeah, the morgue.
The morgue. There we go. The post-surgery room.
Yay! We're sorry if you've lost anyone recently.
But no, it could be that he was compelled by something to come forward, and that could be a reference to that. The sense of a magician. The closest figure we've got is this mysterious man inside the red room.
Sure.
But it may be an entirely different magician, if you will. He was compelled.
And he tells this bit of a story, and the way he says it's almost like a chant or a mantra of some kind. He goes from this almost poem reciting to this moment in time where he said he was with Bob, essentially. Then he saw the face of God, and he cut off his arm.
I'm just gonna be holding on to that little mantra thing for a little bit later.
Absolutely.
But his arm cut off and face of God. I don't know which one is it. Whether or not the person prior he was speaking about may have been Laura, or if the face of God may have been Laura. But I feel that Laura is transfixed somewhere in here, if you will. Don't know where, but it's effectively he's trying to compel Cooper inside of his little mind space on some sort of connection that he's trying to relate to him.
Okay.
So,
and then it cuts to Bob, who we now have a name for, again in the denim jacket.
Yeah.
And Bob's kind of just like looking around. He's like, Mike, can you hear me? And then like there's some sort of connection issue with their Skype call.
Yeah.
Yeah. I've been trying to ring you, Mike. With one arm, it's harder to probably access the Skype. And Bob kind of, again, looking almost toward the camera here. You may think I've gone insane, but I will kill again. It's kind of a slant rhyme. It's a poetic choice. I'm not sure how Donna's sister Harriet would feel about it.
Yeah.
As a poet herself.
Yeah.
But we have this encounter of Bob, who is promising to kill again, which would imply he's done a few killings before. What were your initial thoughts now? This is your third time, I guess you would say, seeing this now named Bob figure.
Technically 4 if we count the little small flash we were referencing to in the back that somehow came to Cooper's mind. That little scene in which he's kind of like peeking over to Laura's mom. We see a little flash of that inside of this crazed scene, and then later we go back to that. So whether or not that is just more so reusing footage to run a point across, or if it is somehow Cooper has this awesome second sight of vision.
Tibet.
Can be.
Anyway,
yeah.
so...
But anyway, Bob, it seems that by the end of this, Cooper kind of goes in and calls on the phone. It's like, I know who the killer is. It's making it seem a lot like Bob is the killer, or the potential link to the killer, which is getting heavy-handed. If so, I really hope for more Bob content.
Okay.
Like, I really want to see more of this Bob character before it's just like, aha, it is I, the killer you've hardly seen.
Okay. So your worry is that the killer of Laura Palmer shouldn't be some rando we never met before.
I mean, albeit we are in about 3 episodes now, a pilot and 2 episodes.
Correct.
And that may not be enough time, but overall it seems a little unsatisfying to me at the moment, if Bob is seen to be the killer.
Interesting.
I'm hoping for a surprise that it won't be Bob, and we're just kind of being led and held by the hand for that. Also, that...
You gotta remember the one leading us by the hand is David Lynch.
Yes.
And while you haven't seen any David Lynch films before, we've talked a bit about his style and approach.
Yes.
And... he's the one leading you by the hand. Make of that what you will. And you're going to a very dark place with him, I believe.
I will. But yeah, as far as the hand in the pilot, though, I'm really hoping is Bob. I'm hoping that stays as Bob, because so far he is still a good connection with Laura Palmer that I still want to explore.
Of course.
But yeah, still convinced there. And yeah.
Anything else on Mike and Bob before we go back to the Red Room?
Before we do, there is also a mound of dirt that we do see that's surrounded by candles. That might be the site that Laura Palmer was killed. It also might be because wasn't that like decorated and just also had that little thing buried inside the dirt with a heart and everything?
I believe so.
Yep. We also see a different point in which like the heart is also buried in the dirt for the other half, somewhere else by our good old power couple, Norma and Johnny.
Norma and Johnny?
No, it's not Norma.
I'm so wait, who? Okay, because Norma's the lady who owns the diner.
I get it. I got the name wrong.
Yeah,
forgive me.
Go through your little phone book there.
I'm going through my phone book. James and Donna.
James and Donna.
There
okay.
we go. Yeah.
Oh boy.
So many names.
Norma and Johnny, which are characters, but I don't think anyone out there. Okay, if you're a listener and you ship Norma, the probably 30s, 40-year-old double R diner owner, and Johnny, the 24-year-old Audrey's brother who has severe emotional issues. If you believe those two belong together, please send us an email at snakeeyedreams@gmail.com. Social media pending.
going back
to the Red Room.
that mound of like they buried in dirt and covered with a rock.
Yes,
necklace. And I don't know which one might be the point of reference here, but it's something buried in dirt.
Sure.
And so my mind is transfixed to one or the other side of the heart.
Okay. Interesting. We go back to the Red Room, and the figure of the man from another place is turning around. He takes a seat in the couch, and we see someone who looks again an awful lot like Laura Palmer.
Oh, I think I might actually take care of this point.
Oh,
because
okay.
effectively I had a lot of notes.
You talk about the nose touch?
Yes, effectively nose touch. As far as that goes, like both of them are introduced, and he kind of like saunters up to his chair. His speech is strangely disfigured throughout this.
Yeah, like reversed, basically.
So again, like, kind of no, not even reversed.
It's like it's a reversal effect.
It's reversal and forward effect because we see words that come out clearly, such as Laura Palmer.
It's someone speaking backwards, and then that is reversed. Is what that is.
Oh, that is clever.
Yes,
that is clever. But yeah, she touches her nose, almost as if to say, "You're on the mark." That's the common.
That's how you think of it. I had two other meanings.
Okay. Did you want to go into those
after you're done with yours?
Yeah, effectively. Getting a little too ahead of myself because you talked about the nose thing. I got excited. Before that, while they're getting sauntered to their seats, an image like a shadow of Saturn goes across the background of the Red Room.
So you think it's Saturn, huh?
No, that looks definitely like Saturn. Like it is too like round to come up as a idea of something like a spaceship or
like
anything.
Like a paper plane to me, or an alien spaceship.
Yeah, no. It was very round, and its ring was very strangely defined. I believe that's Saturn. It especially fits when you think, and this just might be me going crazy conspiratorially.
You're the first person to ever go crazy with Twin Peaks. Never happened before.
But Saturn is known for effectively the god of agriculture and wealth. And to have that looming in the background, whether you assume from Twin Peaks with the lumber mill and that whole bit of crazy business, or overall our dear Connor and his fascination.
Connor?
God, I did it again. Cooper. His name is not
Special
Connor.
Agent Dale Connor.
As far as Cooper goes, he has an absolute fascination with trees. Even one of the few things he comments on, one of the things he continually comments on, and even in the menu, we hear a comment over his fascination with the trees.
Gotta find out what kind of trees those are.
Yep, so I think that Saturn is very fitting for that little agriculture thing in the background. Sarah Connor then afterwards touches her nose.
Sarah Connor.
Sarah.
Isn't that like that's a thing, isn't it?
She is from Terminator.
She's from Terminator.
Oh, you got Connor in my head.
Now I'm just imagining Laura Palmer fighting the Terminator. Anyway.
They rhyme.
Okay.
But yes,
Sarah
Laura
Palmer. Laura Palmer. God, Sarah Palmer's someone else. That's her mom. Okay.
Laura Palmer touches her nose, which I believe is a sense of like you're on the mark because that is the first interaction.
Like you're getting close.
Like you're getting close. Like you got this.
I thought it's because she snorted cocaine. Mm-hmm. And she's like putting one finger on her nostril so the other nostril can... a little bit of that white magic powder.
She hasn't passed for cocaine, but I feel that this is the stronger link.
And then my second thing, if we're going with kind of, I think it works for both of them here, if the white magic powder means he's on the mark, then it can also be, okay, am I wrong to think like, is it I Love Genie or Bewitched, or is it Wizard of Oz, something where there's a young woman who like touches her nose and like magic happens? Is that a thing?
I believe that is I Love Genie or something like that.
Because I feel like David Lynch, I know he likes Wizard of Oz, but I feel like just his use of like 50s and 60s subculture stuff, not even subculture, just culture. I really don't think it's surprising to imagine that this is also a symbol of magic, like witch, wizard power stuff.
And you got angry at me for bringing up Cthulhu.
No, I mean, I didn't get angry. Angry is a strong word, you know.
It's a strong feeling. Anyway.
So whatever it is, whether it's you're on the mark, I'm on cocaine, or you're on Candid Camera because it's actually Bewitched Season 5, interesting gesture from Laura Palmer.
So after that sort of silhouette sort of passes through, we then get the phrase, "Gum you like is going to come back in style."
Well, even before that, you have the one-armed man rubbing his hands together, kind of like he's thinking or scheming. And I'm stuck at this point on the fire imagery.
Okay, so we're going back pre-Red Room to...
No. Oh, no, Man from Another Place.
Man from Another Place. Okay, I didn't recall like him rubbing his hand at this point.
I'm going to... Audio listeners won't see me doing this, but I am rubbing my hands like this.
Oh, okay. You said one-armed man.
Oh, sorry, I meant the man from the place.
Now we're
Sorry,
back.
my
Okay.
bad. It'd be hard for him to rub his hands together. I'm sorry.
No.
I'm sorry.
No, you're not.
So the one arm, man from the place that's rubbing his hands together before we get to the gum you like. So to me, I can't help but think of fire. I mean, he's literally wearing the red outfit. It's the red room.
Mm-hmm.
There's all this stuff about fire walk with me, and I kind of imagine like it's kindling. Like it's like you rub your hands together, like create warmth. It's like you kind of rub two sticks together to create the fire. I think of the hand movement being similar to trying to create some warmth. And that goes into something else I'm going to say later about some oven mitts.
I think that as far as that goes, like him rubbing his hands together, may have been the sense of like cold hands. I thought it was more so mildly conniving.
Oh, yeah, it looks mildly conniving. That's kind of the secondary result. But I think the primary was creating that spark.
But that connivingness, I believe, is going to be in a line coming up.
Ooh.
So
Gum you like.
this is pre that line.
Oh, we're just jumping all over. We are doing so much foreshadowing. You're thinking, right now, oh man, these guys don't have it planned out. No,
We have planned
you
it
don't
too.
have it planned out. This is all foreshadowing. It's a literary technique.
We are planning it out, and it's like us reciting like a trip that your dad kind of just uses the map alone, just kind of like telling all the maps and turns and twists that make no absolute sense. But beyond that, Gum you like is going to come back in style, is the line that he says. Gum is something that you chew and savor, but
I would agree with those statements.
but it hardly lasts. And if anything, not even for a moment.
And it gets stuck to the bottom of those desks at school.
But going on, you have to keep chewing it, and even if it runs dead, there can be a comfort in that chewing, despite disappointment.
Okay, I feel like this is a
the
segue
flavor's
to you
gone.
telling me that you're like still chewing a piece of gum you've had for like a month.
I'm trying to make a cohesive point.
It's
but
just
your interruptions.
It reassures me to chew this gum for the whole month.
But yes, there's a comfort in chewing, despite the disappointment of the flavor being gone in the end. Laura Palmer is a good example of this, where she will continue to be the gum and live on in the sense of this Laura Palmer lookalike, whether or not it's in this one-eye Jack location or inside of this red room, or just overall in the reactions of things like her family members.
So when you say one-eyed Jacks, you did make a comment that we didn't explore because we're saving it for the podcast, but you did make a comment that the new girl at the one-eyed Jacks looked an awful lot like Laura Palmer.
Yeah, there's front bangs.
Front bangs, guilty as charged.
Yeah, honestly, the front bangs are the thing that convinced me. Is like, okay, am I going crazy? Do I just think like the blonde girl
You
looks
just
like
have
the
a
blonde
stereotype.
girl?
You believe all blonde girls are Laura Palmer. It's unhealthy.
But no, as far as that goes, I'm fairly convinced that we're gonna get more Laura Palmer instances.
Well,
But
this new-
let's save that later.
Sure,
Let's
this
save
new
that
Laura
later.
Palmer, the man from another place does say that this particular Laura Palmer is his cousin.
This lookalike.
She
does
looks
look
a
like,
lot like Laura Palmer,
the
but
way-
she's his cousin.
Yeah, but he says it so strangely. He says, "Oh, she looks a lot like Laura Palmer, doesn't she?" Almost like kind of like giving a little nudge to Cooper. So that's where I'm feeling more of this conniving sense. I don't fully trust the small man, but at the same time, he seems to have all the answers.
Well, and then even the Laura, who you think if anyone knows who she is, it'd be the girl herself. All she can really testify is like, yeah, I kind of feel like Laura Palmer, but sometimes my arms bend.
That line bothers me because here's the thing: why would you bend your arms back? That would be a strange thing. What I want to say is that effectively she's playing along with the small man. Whether or not this might even be an extension to the small man, but that's just me going crazy.
I see.
But it's just kind of like holding something behind her back. Just making sure, like, I feel like her, but sometimes my arms are behind my back. And it's immediately followed with the line, she's filled with secrets, isn't she? It's so tongue-in-cheek.
So she's got something behind her back, which is why her arms are behind her back.
Yes, I feel like she's constantly hiding more things, and effectively, again, tongue-in-cheek from the man from the other room is like, oh, yes, she's filled with secrets. So I'm convinced there. I am fully convinced that they're just kind of like teasing Cooper, saying that there's just more and more to learn about this Laura individual.
And then we get information that where the man from the place is from, this other place, the birds are always singing. There's music in the air.
Oh, God. So there can be two different things applied.
So let's just take that the birds sing a pretty song. Anything with the birds singing a pretty song.
Before we do, I'm going to also state the ground that afterwards he starts like dancing as this music suddenly appears and moves and grooves to the music. When you think about something like like birds singing a pretty song in a place where there's always music. It can sound one of two different ways to me. Either it's just beautiful, things are just lovely, and it's just great, or it's very mundane, because if music is everywhere and you hear music in the distance and it's always around, that sounds incredibly boring, because it is just always there. It just becomes the norm.
If I may, can I throw some ideas out there? They may or may not be all red herrings, or they... okay, I can wait.
I just want to finish my point.
Just saying, when you're done, I do have a few possibilities to throw out there. Not saying anything right or wrong, but I have a few.
But yeah, it kind of. I think that in the end, there might be a little bit on both, and it layers itself inside of an uncanny sandwich, if you will. Something beautiful, but something
kind of like the
mundane.
one from Jenny and someone on the riverbank with Ben and Jerry. That sandwich with the brie and butter.
What?
Remember they had that sandwich at the beginning? Is that the uncanny sandwich?
Oh yeah. I suppose. We'll be back to Ben
and Jerry. Yeah.
Ben and Jerry. Oh God!
You didn't figure that out.
I did not figure that out.
I don't
now.
think that company existed at that time. That would have been a long time ago.
Though.
But yeah, it's coincidental.
I'm gonna remember two characters' names.
Congratulations.
But yes. While still in that phrase, or just leaving that phrase, the music lingers and lingers. And when we pop out of the dream, it still is around. It's almost as if like Cooper still remains in that assumed world.
And Cooper is snapping to it.
Yes.
So he definitely hears the music as well. What I was going to say is that if we do take the line that there's always music in the air, you could take that as, okay, where in the show has there been music in the air? And I just want to run through some options.
Everywhere Audrey goes.
Okay, so that actually is part of it. So if we think about the places, if you think of any, jump in, okay?
Yeah.
So the first thing I think of is the diner. They got the jukebox.
Yep.
Bobby's known to play a song there. And we also hear the music playing with Audrey dancing to it.
Yep.
We have
which we see in two different locations.
Correct.
One inside of that same diner, and one inside of Ben Horn's.
And that was my next one, was the Great Northern Hotel, particularly within Benjamin Horne's office, we presume, where Audrey was dancing. We have we'll talk about this scene, I'm sure, but Leland and Sarah Palmer dancing to the picture of Laura Palmer. He plays records there.
Oh, that was a fun time.
And we also have the Roadhouse, which is that bar where we have the Julie Cruz is her name, but the singer from the first episode, and the biker guys all start showing up there. Are there any other places where there's music in the air other than the diner, the Great Northern, the Palmer household, as well as the Roadhouse?
So far, only the Roadhouse has the qualification, not just music in the air, but is always in the air. I think that's an important word.
We got to find out their operating hours.
Yeah, I think
they're closed for even an hour. Can't be on the list.
No, because if they're open during the time where music in the air, this line would still consistently have music in the air. There's consistent performances throughout its time. So I think that's the most likely candidate out of something if they live in the Roadhouse.
And again, I'm just throwing as an idea to consider.
Yeah.
Is that any hint at all? I don't know. I do know, but you don't know.
I think it's more of a feeling than anything. If it was very literal, Roadhouse is the best candidate out of those.
Cool, thank you. We also have Laura's silent whisper to our aged Cooper. So she whispers something that we cannot determine by mouth movement, and we do not hear any audio for it as well.
Likely the information he gets and wakes up with, which we do not know yet.
You can save 15% or more on insurance by switching to video not sponsored.
Yep, video not sponsored.
Audio not sponsored.
The killer of Laura Palmer. This is why the video is not sponsored.
Who knows what I was about to say? It could be anything.
It could be absolutely anything. But no, I think that overall it's the detail that I was overall missing that cracks the case. That's why I think that so far, Bab is the red herring.
So we'll get to, obviously, at the end of the episode, your true thoughts on the killer, as always.
Yeah.
But at the end, you have to withhold.
I'm withholding something else.
That is all the stuff I had on the Red Room.
Why? No, there was a big thing right there.
What else is there?
Laura Palmer wearing a black dress and kissing our dear Cooper.
I mean, if you met him, wouldn't you kiss him?
No. Listen to me. Audrey, earlier in the episode, they're talking to each other, Donna and Audrey, and they're talking about coffee, if you will. Effectively, Donna is just talking in, saying like, effectively, oh yeah, well, how do you like your coffee? And Donna replies with, oh, I like it very sweet. Well, Cooper likes his coffee black. And we specifically get him making out with Laura in a black dress inside this room.
Or it could be black representing death.
It could be. It could represent multiple
He likes
things.
his coffee dead.
Actually, that is something that's a bit of potential.
You've thought of some nefarious motivations on Cooper before.
Yeah.
You was your first suspect, so I do have to tease that out.
He was, but overall, he likes his coffee black. That visual detail is seen. My question alone is that as far as this maybe pseudo relation goes, do you believe that overall Cooper likes Laura in the sense of the mystery around her, or as he continues to get deeper in this mystery, he gets compelled in, like the rest of the town seems to be, through Laura, and just grows fond of Laura herself?
You know, it kind of goes back to that question in the first episode of our podcast. Is there an audience surrogate? And if so, who? We talked about potentially Truman, if anyone, being the best candidate. And so far, I would say Truman's had a pretty inactive role, just kind of watching whatever's going on. But if we do look at Cooper as our main character and kind of the one who's leading the investigation, and I would assume most viewers watching the show now, but especially when the show aired, the main mystery is, you know, who killed Laura Palmer. The one investigating that is our hook into that. I do wonder then if we're going with the idea that she is a Black Widow spider, if you catch my meaning here.
Yeah.
And Laura Palmer is sucking everyone in, then Cooper being our representative, are we not being sucked in by the mystery then too? If Cooper's being sucked in, are we not being sucked in?
Yeah, honestly, that is a good explanation towards a potential surrogate with that. So, yeah, I think that so far Cooper is developing into quite the surrogate.
You know, I too can relate to having a dream 3 years ago where I developed intuitive abilities akin to those of Tibetan masters.
You know,
it's a relatable feeling.
He is the closest thing to it, so I'm gonna take it. Just like candy is the closest thing to food.
Did I miss anything?
That I have near me.
You have some candy?
No.
Did I miss anything else in the Red Room? Oh, wise sir. This is why they call you the professor, isn't it?
As far as this goes, again, the most reeling fact to me is Laura is in a black dress, and that's going to be sticking with me for a while.
Well, and again, going with the idea of fire, the man from the place is in a red suit.
Yeah.
With very pronounced shoulders. I really like the shoulders on that suit.
He's got good shoulders.
Some sharpness.
As far as...
Women go crazy for a sharp-dressed man.
Like, as far as anything else goes, and more details and more things to just delve deeper into, Tibet is my biggest one, and...
Do you want to just segue directly into that?
Tibet time!
I know you wanted me just to let you, so go ahead, have the reins.
Tibet time! So, effectively, we learn a little bit about Cooper's methods through this, that, effectively, he had an interesting dream from beforehand. And allow me to read this to refresh the minds of those around us. That Tibet's leader is the Dalai Lama, and in 1950, communist China invaded Tibet. And while leaving the Dalai Lama in charge, they seized control of Tibet. In 1959, after a Tibetan uprising against the Chinese, the Dalai Lama was forced to flee India for his life and has lived in exile ever since.
Why do I feel like I've heard that somewhere before?
Because it is just straight from this. Okay, so hear me out. Hear me frickin' out.
I don't think I can hear anything else. You're yelling in my ear.
And we're going to be going into this other location, which I'm about to reference, One-Eyed Jack, later, because that's another big place.
Juicy.
This is a big episode.
Yeah, it's definitely I would say the biggest one so far. Of all three.
Oh yeah. But the thing is that his process of thinking has derived from that instance 3 years ago.
From one dream, presumably.
From one dream, he has felt enlightened. The question is that whether or not that this line of thinking has made him perfect for this work, if we consider Laura as the Dalai Lama.
Wait, so she's the gum, and she is also the Dalai Lama, meaning the Dalai Lama is gum. And the Dalai Lama's coming back in style? Albert Rosenfeld just came back in style. Is Albert Rosenfeld the Dalai Lama who is Laura Palmer?
Look, I don't see this statement as just a fun joke. I think that this is an important detail, and hear me out in this craziness. As far as the Dalai Lama is concerned, and Laura Palmer is concerned, they are a...
Wait, what's communism then if Laura Palmer's the Dalai Lama?
We'll get to things later.
Sorry, my mind is working right now.
But yes, in both cases, the Dalai Lama as well as Laura Palmer have been a big part of a larger area. Instead, Tibet is Twin Peaks in this regard. They are effectively leading at least the very minds and hearts of those around them. Am I wrong?
No.
And eventually something seems to be, I would say something larger lurks in the background, which in this case is communist China. Over time, the Dalai Lama has to leave as communist China has taken over, aka the events that had Laura Palmer killed.
Okay.
And during that time, the Dalai Lama was forced to flee to India. In order to live his life in exile.
So India is death?
Or
Sorry
the
if
Dalai
anyone's
Lama,
listening in India.
Yes, it can be death. But what happens when the Dalai Lama dies?
Reincarnation.
Reincarnation.
Ooh, that gum you like is coming back in style.
Nom, nom, nom.
Are you eating your gum?
Nom, 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 nom. So effectively, I feel that him being sent to exile or him being moved away, and this large factoid about the Dalai Lama comes forward in this one girl who comes up, this strange girl who looks just like Laura Palmer inside of the J car place, and it is juicy. Effectively, it could be that.
Okay.
Or, effectively, his sense of enlightenment may see himself as the Dalai Lama, but I don't have enough information on that. Just with the introduction of this red room. He's an aged man inside this sense, but yet at the same time we know that Cooper is much younger. Whatever his perspective is or his past life may have been, this sense of age caught me off guard.
So my understanding, just to go back a bit, you believe that the story of Tibet is a working metaphor, that his methods for solving the case reflect the fact that Laura Palmer has metaphorically been exiled by metaphorical China because she is the metaphorical Dalai Lama, meaning that if she will be reborn and the exile is death, and that means that the killer is communism.
Whether or not she even actually is dead, like the exile can still be put forward because she has moved, effectively Laura Palmer as a concept.
So wait, do you believe that Laura Palmer is going to physically reincarnate, or do you believe that the concept of Laura Palmer is going to reincarnate?
Maybe either, because honestly, I don't know whether or not Laura Palmer is fully dead. We have seen her. We have seen like a body and carcass that looks just like her, and someone who looks just like Laura Palmer is over at the Jack card. What was that place?
One-Eyed Jacks.
One-Eyed Jacks. Here's the big thing too.
Big thing. Incoming. Do you smell it? That's the big thing.
The Dalai Lama was exiled. And where is the Jack bar?
It is on the Canadian side of the border.
Crossing the border. Like crossing the border of a country to the other side.
Crossing the border to the afterlife.
Or to Canada. It's either Laura Palmer...
So wait, it's India or Canada death?
It's whether or not Laura Palmer is dead that will incorporate death. But effectively, the Canadian border might be where Laura Palmer lives on, whether or not this is fake Laura Palmer or real Laura Palmer. This character is going to become important, I feel.
Okay.
Thank you for joining me on my craziness.
So the new girl is the old girl, the gum you like, back in style. And I mean, it is a style. One-Eyed Jacks, their outfits that women wear, that is a style.
It back in style just more so comes back into sight.
Fair enough.
Whether or not this like faux Laura Palmer is going to be the real Laura Palmer who just switched places with this other person, or whether or not... okay, you can probably see where I'm going with this.
Who isn't Laura Palmer right now? Just making sure. Is Pete Martell Laura Palmer?
Seriously, Tibet and the Red Room got me crazy. It got me crazy. But anyway, going on from Tibet, we get to see a little bit of Cooper's interesting ways of deduction.
Throwing rocks?
Throwing rocks. I think that this is great from the writers and directors.
Okay, Mark Frost is given a writing credit on this episode. Lynch is writing credit as well as director.
Yeah, okay, directors.
That's one thing we never really fully know is how much of this show is Frost, how much is Lynch, and then obviously other writers are credited as well. there's always, you can look at the credits, but I don't necessarily know if that explains the whole picture here.
Yeah.
I know that from a little bit of researching I did, a lot of the actions that characters take, some of it's just actors improving. Like the red and blue glasses that Jacoby wears, that was the actors he just had 3D glasses and wore them.
Interesting.
So there's so many things that like become a big deal, but are small little choices that the actors make. There's one coming up that if I remember correctly, and please, if I am mistaken, I apologize, listener. But I'm pretty sure there's something coming up that is a really, really great creative choice. That was because the actor just felt like doing it. So just bear in mind, we don't know. Now, granted, as much as I'd love to believe that Hawk's actor, Michael Horse, wanted to wear the oven mitts, I'm going to guess that came from probably Lynch himself. That's my theory.
But again, this will be a fun bit of communication, I feel, between the writers and director with the audience.
And our audience represented by Lucy, Andy, to some extent Hawk then, and Truman, just watching this all happen. In fact, I think we're Andy in that situation. We're the one who's just standing there getting hit by the head with rocks.
I'll get back to that in just a moment. I don't necessarily think we need an audience surrogate. I think that's so far just like us being the audience witnessing this.
No, but you can't deny that that's there, because when the moment Cooper starts talking about Tibet, all four of them lean forward in their seats listening to him talk. Yeah. And there's no mistaking that Cooper is a David Lynch surrogate.
As far as I'm concerned, there's a little piece of us in them anyway, but
we're all there, and Laura Palmer's in all of them too. We are Laura Palmer. Laura Palmer was the friends we made all along the way.
We are going so far from Tibet, we need to turn this plane around.
Let's go back to Tibet.
But yes, he has this sense that he's going to throw this rock over at this ball where Andy has placed, specifically Andy.
Correct.
Okay, and he's supposed to stand aside after he's placed the bottle down, effectively, while Hawk holds onto the rocks with oven mitts, and effectively, I keep wanting to call him. What's the detective's name again?
Cooper.
No, the sheriff?
Harry S. Truman.
Harry S. Truman. I was thinking...
The president.
I keep thinking Shepard. I don't know why. Truman. Truman is supposed to read things out, and we've gone to the Lucy over off, checking things off if anything goes off.
Correct.
He throws off the first rock, which is supposed to, I assume, represent James Hurley, and it hits low next to the it hits the log next to the bottle, which is adjacent from the said bottle,
Fair enough.
Might be a representation of just communicating that he instead is involved with someone who was close to Laura, which is confirmed with Donna.
So Donna is the other log.
Yes, I feel that Donna is the other log.
She kind of looks like a log.
She does not.
And James kind of looks like a rock. Side note, before you continue, because I just want to get this out of my system. The oven mitts, I have two theories.
Okay.
Oven mitts, one, total nonsense. It's just a funny little gag that the actors or writers thought would be really funny. Hawk is just wearing oven mitts. And you know what? If that's the case, I'm cool with it. I think it's funny. I like that he's wearing oven mitts. It feels appropriate. Second meaning, oven mitts, what are they used for? They are used to protect something or someone from a transference of heat. And with all the fire and electricity in this show, can't help but think that Hawk wearing the gloves is either meant to protect the bucket of rocks from his heat or him from the heat of the bucket of rocks. And we also get this note at the very beginning with Cooper drinking the coffee that the coffee is hot. So I do think that the oven mitts there are used to protect a transfer of heat from happening, which might in some way mess with the results or possibly harm someone.
Yep, these are hot takes that they're throwing.
Hot takes for hot mitts and hot coffee. Continue with your hot deductions.
But yes, next up was Josie Packard, in which the rock strikes below between two logs. Not sure what I concretely believe on this, but I've kept the note in case something does come up. Next up, Dr. Lawrence Jacoby, the psychiatrist. The ball is struck but does not break. Light involvement, which we do clearly see from the end of episode 2, where he takes the heart out of the coconut. Or episode 1, sorry, of the coconut. Johnny Horn. She was a teacher to him, and the thing is really far off that it hits the garbage bin, which could also be considered a burn bin. Do not know how much that'll be involved, but apparently it just didn't even go close to the bottom.
So far away from the course.
Yep, so effectively that is to be noted. Norma Jennings, who organizes Meals on Wheels. it doesn't quite go far enough. It's like struggles to even get to the bottle. So again, I think that's just Norma is not so involved with the events whatsoever. Shelley Johnson was the most interesting one. Because she was noted as a friend, and it hits a tree, something nice, hard rock, hard, just sturdy, and then straight at Andy, just hitting a hard place straight into a person. Now here's the thing: who set down the bottle?
Was it Andy?
Andy set down the bottle, right?
Okay, yeah, sure, I'm with you.
The rock just bounces off of a tree, which is a much larger log, and slams straight into Andy.
What is a tree if not a large log? Isn't that right, log lady?
So it misses the bottle, right?
Okay, I'm interested to hear this. Continue.
The one that we're gonna be going back to One-Eyed Jacks.
Are you gonna go back to Shelley? Because I want to hear what you think of Shelley. Like, why do you think? Because you said it was the most interesting result.
Yeah. No.
Why do you think that happened?
Here's why I'm going to that.
You're getting to it. Okay.
Because who is Shelley involved with?
Monsieur Bobbert.
She is more involved with, I would argue,
Leo Johnson,
the last person who was listed, if you will. And the rock is thrown and strikes the bottle, and it breaks, making him seems to be a likely candidate to be deeply involved with murder in general.
You know, Leo Johnson, I think he's getting an unfair rep here.
No.
Okay, all joking aside, yeah, it makes sense. Go on.
No, it's just strikes it and strikes the bottle. The one who is adjacent towards him, which is Andy, who set things up. I don't know how involved Shelley is with this whole shenanigans, but it makes me more interested in her character on how involved she was with Laura and this whole situation.
Fair enough.
Both Andy and the bottle were struck with two characters who are so close to one another. But yes, the one that got skipped that was on the listing was One-Eyed Jacks.
Did not throw a rock.
Did not throw a rock. It might be confirming that there's just not enough information behind it.
It's just not a person also.
It's not a person, which worded inside the letter, it just might be, okay, this is not involved with the note whatsoever.
We don't even know a single Jack.
Yeah.
We know a Jacques.
Yes.
Well, Cooper doesn't know a Jacques, but we know a Jacques.
Or it's just simply saying, put that idea aside. It is not important in this moment. Focus on these people.
Even though you do believe that One-Eyed Jacks is important, because you believe they may or may not have reincarnation on their hands.
We'll get to One-Eyed Jacks, because that is another fun pool. But no, I feel that this is an excellent line of strangeness, along with communicating with the audience on some of the information that we have so far, and just relative information when things are struck, if you will. Both getting them interested, what they don't know, as well as, reiterating points that we kind of do know. If, like, say, for example, the James Hurley one is anything to say about the rock hitting the log aside it.
Fair enough.
Yeah.
Do you have much else on Tibet?
Tibet
Itself.
Tibet itself, it might be a very nice place. I've never been. Overall, I know the name. I know the name quite frequently, but never looked into it.
So we are currently over 45 minutes into recording at this moment.
That doesn't matter.
I'm just making sure that you, my co-host, Unplugged Professor, you're in for the long haul.
Yeah.
Listeners, this will either end up being one of our longest episodes, or it's a sign that our episodes are going to progressively get longer. And in the future, as the show continues, we're going to add an extra 20 minutes at least per episode. So by the time we're done with season 1, we're looking at probably a 4-hour pod. And then by the time we're done with season 2, I think we got to clear out a couple weekend.
Don't make promises that we can't keep. I don't know.
This is such a meaty episode. This is, and I can't say what's to come, but I will say this is a very memorable episode. It was one that I was excited for. I didn't let him know it was a big one, but obviously there's so much here that goes on that I think it's fair if we go a little longer. So please, viewer, listener, I don't think you're viewing us. If you're viewing us right now, please remove the cameras. We did not allow this.
If you are also viewing us, please email snakeeyedreams@gmail.com to tell me which side is my best one.
Anyway. So do you want to move on to one of my points then?
No, but I'll wait for One-Eyed Jack.
Okay, mine will lead naturally to it. Jerry Horn.
Jerry Horn.
So we get this introduction at the beginning of the episode. So we talked a lot about the end of the episode, kind of the middle with the whole investigation with the rocks. Yes. And now we're going back to the beginning. It opens up this episode with a rather long shot of the Horn family at dinner with Johnny, Audrey, Ben at the end of the table, and then the mother, who we don't hear much from, but she's there. And they're just eating in silence. And to be honest with you, I'm going to do a little bit of an assumption here. I'm going to assume most family dinners at the Horn household are in silence. I do not get the sense that Audrey, Ben, and the mother and Johnny talk very much.
That's very assumptive.
Do you agree with that assumption, though?
Yeah.
Yeah. So they're very different personalities. And interrupting this long silence, which we just voyeuristically observe they're eating together.
Yeah.
We get Jerry, our new character, because, of course, the person watching this show 3 episodes in, they're thinking, man, I wish there were more characters in this show so I can learn more names. And then Jerry Horn shows up. We quickly get a sense in which, Ben's glad to see him, but it's not like a surprise to anyone that he's there. Although we do notice that Ben's wife, the mother, seeming very like, ugh, not this guy kind of attitude to him.
Yeah, and Ben is in opposition, is more like, this guy.
Hey, it's my man.
It's your Uncle Ichabod.
And then Jerry comes over with these sandwiches. You got to try these sandwiches, this bread, these French baguettes with brie. He's like back from France. And he just has these sandwiches. And they just begin chowing down. And I love the way they eat these sandwiches. I love the way that Benjamin Horn just dives right into that sandwich. And I've heard people, I've read people, I don't know if it's YouTube videos or Reddit posts or what, try to interpret like this is metaphorical in some way, or like even sexual, that like the way they describe it reminding them of these 2 girls or whatever. It's like some weird connotations.
Oh, no, it wasn't 2 girls. It was a diner that may have involved 2 girls. Ginny's and Jenny's by the river. Which,
you think that's a place?
It's called Ginny's and Jenny's by the river.
That could be 2 people, Ginny and Jenny.
By the river.
By the river.
But it's
that's
like,
where they're located.
But it has the apostrophe S at the beginning. It's like, oh yeah, you remember this? It's probably Ginny and Jenny's house.
It's probably just a sandwich shop.
It probably is, but probably isn't. But we got another J name.
However, it is such a telling sign.
Maybe 2.
That Jerry and Ben are united by this, like, how should I put this? This zest for life and consumption.
And cheese.
And I think, yes, we'll get more cheese later with Jerry. Trust me, that's a foreshadow. What I will say, you know what I'm talking about, dear listener. If you've watched ahead, get ready for the cheese with Jerry. What I will say, though, is that...
Oh, yep, go on.
What I will say, though, is that going back to the sandwiches, I think it shows the zest for life that these 2 brothers have. Okay, the zest for life that these 2 brothers have, where you can take that metaphorically for just how they treat life, money, women. They are there to consume.
Consume.
And the consummation of their brother relationship is One-Eyed Jack's transition. Also, I noticed that when they were on the boat there, did you not think that footage was sped up?
No, it was.
It was weirdly sped up with the smoke light going like quick and quick and quick, and also fire from the smoke end. The one sign of like red you see in all this like blue night sky in the ocean.
Oh no, you just had to look at like Ben and Jerry
and the arms moving.
Yeah.
So why this was sped up? I don't believe for a second with David Lynch he just randomly. I mean, some things he does are random, but to do that to the footage, they easily could have just done it regular speed and just shown a part of it, because it's not like they needed to speed that up to get from point A to point B. The whole entire section of them on the boat, they're neither starting from a point or ending at a point. It's just a time of them on the water. Why that's double speed is obviously not just like necessity.
Well, you see, the reason why is because the cameraman, they actually got a new cameraman to jump in, and effectively he was late to try to get the full house intro going, so he had to quickly just like shoot this. They only had like 3 seconds of footage. They're like, damn, we gotta speed this up, and so effectively that's why. It probably isn't why, but I like to think.
I have no major theories why. I do think it's a really interesting creative choice that I've not heard talked about very much. Why speed up the footage of them going there? The closest I can get is the sense that they're both excited to go, and they're like 2 kids in a candy store almost, or 2 kids at a perfume counter, and they're very excited to get there, which means that the fast pace represents their quickness to run away from the family life and go to their other family. They're more touchy-feely, gambly, alcohol-y family.
Yeah, the perfume counter. Yeah. Are we going to?
Let's go to the perfume counter.
Okay.
Unplugged Professor.
Okay, so prior to this, they did mention that overall, Laura's dead. That news was broken to Jerry, and Jerry seemed like, Man.
Yeah, it's like, hey, the Norwegians are leaving. What, the Norwegians? Oh, man, we had those Vikings by the horns. Wait, did you say something about Leland's daughter dying? Oh, now I'm depressed. Let's go to One-Eyed Jacks.
No, because here's the thing. They were mentioning inside of at the perfume counter, there was
New girl.
There was a new girl who had arrived.
Freshly scented from the perfume counter.
Now, we have heard the perfume counter before.
Yes.
That was where effectively Ronette apparently worked.
Ronette Pulatsky.
So she worked the perfume counter.
Yeah. Coincidence.
Yeah, coincidence. Yeah, really big coincidence that, the place with the J has the Ronette, in which potentially has, the person who got tied up later on when Laura Palmer was.
Yeah.
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 Yeah. Yeah. But anyway, there's this lovely little brothel that I can never remember the name of. It definitely has One-Eyed Jack somewhere in there. They visit that because that is the quote-unquote perfume counter. It's a place where you find other scents.
No.
Oh, well, okay. From my perspective,
There's Horn's department store has a perfume counter. Like there's a perfume place they sell perfume.
Yeah.
It is saying that Ronette had a job there that she worked.
I don't believe it. I believe that she said that.
Okay.
And I believe that overall, I got a job over the perfume counter. And then she heads off to the real nice perfume counter.
Okay.
So, yeah, that's where my mind is being led, and that's where the Laura Palmer connection might be, because not only has she had a history with other people for certain desires, but...
Like cocaine?
Yeah, sure. But... with Jerry and his knowledge towards Laura and just being, disappointed, and they say that they're going to go to the perfume counter... I think that maybe Laura Palmer also, out of the 2,000 things she's done, may have had a part-time job. Wink, wink, nudge, nudge.
Hey, Laura Palmer had a lot of spare time.
But yeah, Ben and Jerry end up going to the brothel. The front desk lady at the perfume counter ended up saying that, hey, Ben and Jerry, they're here, in sort of tone.
Mm-hmm.
So,
and out comes Blackie.
Yep, Blackie, in which seems to know at least Ben pretty well.
And then Ben, in his typical style, decides to recite a Shakespeare sonnet, verbatim off memory. Mm-hmm. He almost gets to the rhyming couplet at the end before he's interrupted by Jerry, who just, cut through all that nonsense. Let's just get to the new girl, flip a coin for her.
Yeah.
Which I love that, again, I think it's really interesting that Ben's the kind of guy who will eat a delicious sandwich instead of his wife's cooking, proudly and gluttonously in front of the whole family, and just enjoy the sandwich.
He's right also the kind of,
yes, he does go right for the middle. That's a bold move. Mm-hmm. And also the kind of guy who will try to woo the presumed owner, manager, whatever, of the girls at the brothel with classical Shakespearean sonnets he just has memorized. He has a zest for life. You got to give him that.
Certainly. But
the finest things in life are for Benjamin Horne.
But yeah, the new girl that is revealed has some nice little bangs and looks a lot like Laura Palmer.
Did her arms bend back?
With secrets. But whether or not that theory actually goes anywhere, I leave it up to me not sleeping at night. Yeah, but no, One-Eyed Jacks is an interesting location. As far as Cooper is concerned, he has been tipped off to this location with a knock at the door with that little note. So we likely will learn a little bit more about Laura Palmer across towards the Canadian border. So, do you want to talk about Ed and Nadine, or do you want to talk about good old Leo? I'll leave that bit up to you.
I had Ed and Nadine on my list. Yeah. I had literally, so most of my notes, there's a little description with a few keywords, some things to remind me. Yeah. I just have Ed/Nadine ...
Yeah, Nadine scares me.
So I remember when I first watched this show.
Yeah.
I was really interested in Nadine, not romantically, I want to explain here.
Oh, how could you not?
But I mean, she has an eye out for us. Mm-hmm. Anyway, but no, I was interested because she was such a weird anomaly and I found her funny. And while the Log Lady's weird, she wasn't really around that much. We see her so much more because we're watching the Log Lady intros. Without those, she's just kind of barely a character. Yep. And Nadine's kind of the one weirdo in the whole cast of the main characters that just what's the deal with the Drape Runners? And then upon viewing this time, I'm less interested. Nothing against her. I just haven't had a lot to say. Ed just seems like a pretty normal guy who's married to a pretty not normal person.
I'd call her emotionally abusive.
There's a sense in which I'll play devil's advocate and say that I don't think the relationship is all one-sided in the problem department.
No.
I don't think Ed is with her. He hasn't divorced her. He seems to care about her enough to put up with her, even though he's clearly more interested in Norma.
Yeah.
At the same time, I don't see him taking any interest in the things that Nadine takes an interest in. Such that I feel like when he destroys the thing that, because we know as viewers, Nadine has one thing she cares about right now, and it's the Drape Runners. She's had this on her mind for the last few days at the very least. Mm-hmm. And for him just to step on it and destroy it all, that would be like crushing Nadine, because it's like the one thing she's been working on. Imagine you've been putting all your effort, like I don't think she has a job, right? I think she's at home doing this. Imagine you're pouring hours and hours into something and someone just comes in and breaks it suddenly. And they're like, I'm sorry, I didn't see it on the floor.
No.
You'd be a little upset.
Now let me be the devil's advocate to the devil's advocate, the angel's advocate, if you will. Ed was having a rough time trying to get things in order, and everything was going wrong in his shop. And when he was just trying to hurry off to the bathroom or wherever he was, just covered in grease, he ends up stepping on it. He overall just is like, and then he just kind of reasons through, but it was on the floor, and it seemed like he still had that little mild sense of distraught, but at the same time, it's like saying to a small child, look, I'm sorry for stepping on this thing for you or having to throw out your toy, but it was like
at the same time. Okay, I'm imagining keeping the kid idea here. If you got this kid who's built like this sandcastle, okay, and you just accidentally walk into it, and you're just like, sorry, kid, it was right there. That isn't going to make the kid not sad.
No, I know.
So to me, at the end of the day, while I think you could argue it's verbally abusive, I don't know if I can go that far with the one instance. I would say that her outburst of anger of how terrible he is and being angry at him, that's the same kind of anger I think a lot of people, especially people who aren't emotionally mature, would have to someone destroying something they spent literally hours on, the one thing that's on their mind. You'd be more than a little passingly mad. You would, for example, Professor, we've made videos together and worked on videos.
Yes.
Imagining getting hours and hours done of editing.
Yeah.
And then someone doesn't realize it's a file you needed. Let's say it's a shared computer.
Yeah.
And they delete it because you didn't name it a clear name. And they're like, well, I didn't know. I was just trying to clear some space. That would not stop you from being upset just because they didn't notice it.
I'm sure, but overall, every other case we've seen her with Ed is usually yelling at Ed about
This
this drapes. It's my context
Even
for
more
Nadine,
reason, though, for why he should be feeling some remorse.
My context for Nadine is just more so she is perpetually just angry with Ed because she needs to get her stuff done. She wants to be rich.
We saw what she did to that exercise equipment. You don't want her anger.
Oh, no, she broke that thing. She has some strange bits of strength, if you will. And when we jump to her talking to Norma, she's happy and excited and just full of life. And when we actually see her this time, when she actually gets her stuff done, she shows a little bit of love. She definitely is happy that Ed accidentally helped her and is embracing him. But Ed has this expression on him that just seems very, if you
Fair.
will. So
I don't have a lot else to say on Ed and Nadine. I think they're an okay subplot.
yeah.
I think it's, at this point, I wouldn't even call it comic relief. I don't know what emotion we're quote unquote supposed to have.
I'd say concerned. They are my best concerned power couple in this series, and James and Donna are my most bored power couple.
Who is your favorite power couple you're rooting for?
No.
Come on, Sheriff Truman and Josie. Are you not man, I really hope that works out for them.
The only times that I'm just feeling a sense of calm is just probably around the point of Ed and Norma, but at the same time, I don't condone what they're doing right now. I think that maybe Ed might be afraid of what Nadine will do if they do go apart.
Do you mind if I do a nice segue to another power couple?
Yeah.
One of the most interesting power couples, and at this time I don't know if we should or shouldn't support them, is Bobby and Shelley. So, at a glance, right? Let's just look at Shelley's character. Mm-hmm. She is married. She is working at this diner.
Yep.
And she is married to Leo Johnson, who is a trucker, meaning he is, gone for large portions of the days, probably, possibly even weeks at end. He's gone a lot. And when he is around, we don't get any sign of redeemable qualities. Leo Johnson has not done one single thing in the course of this 3 episodes of the series to give us any indications there's a drop of kindness in his soul. He is known to be excessively controlling, to be very, very aggressive. He has a drug trade that he runs. He has the clear power to scare the living daylights out of Bobby and Mike, who, despite all their flaws, they are just high school kids. At the same time, Bobby and Mike are the people who are seen literally barking at James in the cell. They aren't like weaklings. Bobby and Mike together are two, he's a football, Bobby's considered a football star. He's in shape. They're healthy. They've done activities that are a little shady, and they're scared of Leo pretty easily. And it's to the point where he's willing to verbally and physically abuse Shelley.
Yep.
I don't think even the most, I don't know what word I want to use, not really conservative, but I think anyone could understand why someone in Shelley's position would fall for someone else. Especially someone like Bobby, who comes in, and I don't know about you, but I do get genuine care out of Bobby's relationship to Shelley. I mean, some of it's rooted in just plain lust. He wants to, make out with her and stuff.
Yeah.
At the same time, when he sees that she's been hit, I don't doubt for a second that he believes what he's saying. And when he says, if he does this again, I'll kill him. This is Bobby saying that about a guy who he just met the night before and was afraid of.
Yeah.
He's willing to face probably one of his biggest fears for the girl he loves.
Yep.
I'm going to go on a limb and say that aspect of the power couple is probably healthy. However, for both their sakes, there's a lot of danger here.
Yeah, like the cocaine.
Like the cocaine.
But no, I think that overall there is this sense, if not naive, genuine care Bobby does give, just because of, prior to the scene, we just see playing off on the television, it's just a sense of love can happen at any hour or something.
Invitation to love. I was going to get to that later in another point.
Yeah, so effectively this might be a sense of an invitation to love, effectively whether or not she decides to accept it.
One thing I also want to bring back is there's a moment when he's being interviewed in episode 1, I believe, with Cooper, and Bobby says, no, I don't do drugs, when asked if he helped Laura with the cocaine. Have we seen Bobby do drugs? We know he sells them. He takes money for them.
No, I'm pretty sure that there was a note in the pilot or the first episode where they say Bobby does do drugs and so did Laura.
Okay. Could be wrong. I was just wondering if we've had any evidence of that at this moment.
Yeah.
Mike, don't know for sure on him, do we? We know they drink, which would be underage.
Mike.
His buddy, Snake?
Snake, no, you gave him another name.
You can't, this has got to come up at some point, right?
Yes.
We have Bobby and Mike.
Yep.
Bob and Mike.
I don't know what you're trying to connect. Like a bobbing microphone?
You're being facetious with me, right?
No.
We had the revelation that the one-armed man is named Mike. And that the other one is named Bob. Snake is Mike, Bobby. Mike and Bobby, Mike and Bob. Now, what you're going to do with that is up to you. But I thought that was just kind of an obvious thing of being like, that's a weird parallel, because there's a lot of characters in the show, mind you, but you don't accidentally name two people who are close to each other the same names twice. I mean, unless David Lynch literally forgot, and it's possible.
It is.
It's possible.
It is.
Things to think about, though. Has Mike found God? Is Snake going through his religious period? Is he going to lose an arm? We'll find out next time on Invitation to Love.
Yeah.
Speaking of Invitation to Love, do you mind if I segue? Or we got more on Leo that isn't obvious?
As far as the obvious points of Leo, no. He is the shattered jar.
Oh, I guess we do have some more things. Weird masked figure in the background that Leo says, don't worry about it, basically.
Yeah, I'm leaning on Shelley.
Okay.
Just because, again, there was that sense of, well, it's mysterious, don't know who it is. Like, it might be like, I'm skipping. Who was the guy inside the jean jacket who might be a Bob or a Mike?
Jean jacket is Bob.
Okay, so it may be Bob, just out of possibility, but I do have a strong lean to Shelley, especially with that scene with the Tibet throwing rocks.
Let's rock. You get it? Because
No, yeah.
that's what the man from the place said, and
Yep.
the rocks. And there was this one moment where in the conversation between Leo and Bobby, Leo says, Laura's a wild girl. And Bobby says, tell me about it. And Leo just kind of like stares at him. Maybe I will. One day. And it's like, okay, so as if Leo didn't need any more suspicion on him. So what I wanted to then transition to, if you don't mind, goes into something I'm not sure how much we're going to want to say at this time.
Yeah.
But I never thought of it the first time through, and this time it's kind of staring me in the face.
Okay.
And I will not lie that some of this is influenced by a certain theory video out there, as well as other people's ideas that I've read.
Yep.
There's some meta stuff going on here.
Yep.
And I'll start with Invitation to Love,
Yep.
the soap opera within a soap opera.
Yep.
We will see more Invitation to Love later.
Ooh.
But clearly the opening of a soap opera that Shelley, who might be one of the most soap opera characters in the show, literally the person who's torn between this love affair with the abusive guy and then the young stud and blah, 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 blah.
Yep.
That feels like a soap opera situation.
It's a shame that we
She's
didn't
the one watching the soap opera, and oddly, the line that she shuts the TV off to is the invitation to love. She shuts the TV off, and who shows up? Her invitation to love, right? Bobby. And then you also have Audrey, who, when she's talking with Donna, there's that music playing in the background. And I don't know about you, but I would have just assumed that was the soundtrack because this show is full of music.
Yep.
I would say music is playing in the background most of the time in this show.
Yep.
It's got that Angelo Badalamenti, like smooth jazz soundtrack.
Yep.
But Audrey notices the music in the background and starts dancing to it. And the weird thing is we're not given an indication that it's music on the jukebox. We're not given indication that it's like a song that's being played because this is a song that just is used in the show. We've heard the same song before outside the diner, meaning that Audrey's dancing to the soundtrack, which make of that what you will. I just think that's really interesting and probably pretty deliberate that you have the soap opera within a soap opera giving clear parallels of Invitations to Love and Audra dancing to the soundtrack. There's something weird going on in Twin Peaks.
So, any parallels you got for Pennsylvania 5000?
No?
No? Okay.
What's that?
It's the song that plays in the background as Laura's father goes dancing.
Gotcha.
I wrote down.
What is 6 and 5? That's numerically, that's 11? I don't got anything with 11.
Yep.
I've heard people say David Lynch is into numerology stuff, so I just thought I'd bring it up.
Okay, I got it. What if 11 is like two twins, if you will? One.
The Twin Peaks.
Yes, the Twin Peaks. I'm going insane. Anyway,
one side note, this one I got no transition, so let me just rattle it off real quick.
Go for it.
Interesting thought. We see Cooper in this episode. The first time we see him in this episode, he has the whistle that he whittled earlier.
Yep.
Probably the night before or the night before. I don't know
yeah.
anymore. This timeline's weird. Like, we're only on day, 3 or something. Like, we're in the same day that last episode was in. Based on just the way Pete talked about the fish in the percolator.
Yes.
So this whole episode is all taking place in the same day as the last one.
Yes.
You can go through an hour and a half in this show and one day has passed. So time is weird.
Time is weird. Especially between Bob's and Mike's.
Exactly. But Cooper has whittled down this little pipe, little flute.
Yeah.
And it made me think, when you blow air through a wooden whistle, is that not the same thing as wind through a tree?
Kinda.
I think it's the same thing.
Wind through nature, wind through leaves can make a whistling sound.
We've seen that a little bit. The scene of wind through the trees.
Yeah.
It is kind of like with the red and amber and green stoplight.
Yeah.
We will notice occasionally some visual motifs. I can't help but feel that blowing wind through the flute is blowing wind through a tree.
Okay.
That's all I got. I just had that random thought that needed to come somewhere.
Okay. Now how about I go ahead and do a random thought then?
Feel free.
We got the introduction to Albert Rosenfield.
Correctamundo.
He's a no-nonsense agent that mirrors Cooper in many ways and comes to investigate Laura Palmer and just kind of check out the dead body, right?
Right.
Okay, now going back to Tibet and the Dalai Lama, if we were to assume that Cooper is the Dalai Lama, I
thought Laura was the Dalai Lama.
Like, again, I can't decide whether or not it is Cooper or
Can they both
Laura.
be the Dalai Lama?
They can both be the Dalai Lama. It is allowed. But if there's any connection with the Dalai Lama and Cooper, if it's some sort of self-introspection, I believe I'm using the right word, that makes his overall mind process do as it do. Think about it this way. If Albert Rosenfield later on in this series, and you already know this answer, but here's how things are working in my head. If Albert Rosenfield kind of takes over things from Cooper, seeing the way how Cooper acts, if you will, and becomes more prevalent through the discussion, even with his like no-name agents that are all around him, it's almost like communist China is starting to invade. And with
Look, this podcast does not officially support or condemn China. Just letting everyone know that we do not have any political affiliations to or against China. Please do not send your combatants our way, either physically or digitally. Thank you very much. Snake Eye Dreams, Kalil, over.
But no, effectively, like with Rosenfield here, I don't know whether or not he's going to grow, but if he is going to be someone who is going to be more important and more of the agency is going to be more important, maybe we might have to see Cooper step aside, if you will, and move away from the investigation as if this were Tibet.
So you're kind of stuck between the Tibet thing is referencing Laura's inciting incident of the murder, or it's foreshadowing for what's going to happen to Cooper in the future.
Or perhaps even with the short man inside of Cooper's mind or inside of his dreams, that he may have been forced out of his previous sense of mind.
So is it future or is it past?
It is a good question. Overall, it doesn't even have to be mutually exclusive. It could be a multiple of these. But I've been playing around with it, and that is why I've been obsessed with Tibet.
I don't even know what year it is anymore. If we look at Rosenfeld, I just also want to mention, this is not a whole point, I love the how immediately close Cooper and Truman are. For being on the case for like maybe 3 days together now, it's to the point where Cooper could just lean over and kind of do a little boop on the nose, and they just kind of do the thumbs up or whatever.
Okay.
And Truman just goes with it. Truman is going with everything Cooper is doing, and he is just like, wait, so you got this idea from a dream? Yes, I did.
Okay, I changed.
And then just lets it happen.
I changed my mind. I feel that Cooper and Truman are the power couple.
They're the power couple
that I've been looking for.
What did you call them earlier? Cameron and Shepard or whatever?
Yeah.
Whatever you called them.
Sure.
And what else we got here? I got a few more. I think we do have to talk, obviously, about the Leland, Sarah dancing with the picture of Laura Palmer.
Yeah.
The thing that I remember hearing was improv. And I want it to be improv because it's so incredible, is that Sarah Palmer actually cut her hand on the glass with the picture, and that it was the actor who played Leland's idea to take the blood from her hand and smear it on the picture of Laura Palmer. Which, if that's true, is an incredible, like, on-set, cameras rolling, I'm in character, what would this grieving father who's clearly, like, out of his wits do? He would definitely smear the blood over his dead daughter's face and weep about it emotionally.
Yeah, 1 + 1 = 2, and that plus that equals that.
I just love the idea to actually think it was an improv decision, and I believe it really was.
It is. It definitely adds to the scene. It is lovely. I feel sad that someone had got through it, but hey.
I mean, I'm okay with if even 50 people got cut for that scene. Let them all shed blood.
So this view from Kalil does not match the professor's view over the abuse on various actors. Do not send various actors our way, whether physically or digitally. Anyway, that
is the red blood smeared on Laura the red of communism? That her picture is getting washed over in red shows the Dalai Lama being covered by communism.
No. But definitely, the parents are having bubblegum withdrawals.
Fair enough.
Effectively, they now that Laura is out of their life, there's just so much chaos. And they are the closest affiliates to Laura.
I do like the way they cut to it. It's kind of random in the episode in the sense of, it's something we've built to a lot in there. But I do like the fact that we take some time to go back and see their grieving process and just kind of like, it puts it all back in perspective, man. Like, why are we all here? Yeah. What are we all fighting for?
Yeah.
And then, we just got to dance.
Gotta dance.
I don't know, man. Do you have any thoughts on that?
Pennsylvania 65000.
Valid. Anything else that's needed?
Well, honestly, there was another important scene that will likely have more repercussions later.
I have two more small things, and then I'm pretty much good.
Okay, glad to hear about your things, but Effectively, there was that point in which Pete gave Josie a
Yes, that was
key.
one of my things.
Yep.
Safety deposit box.
To the safety deposit box that's inside their home behind the bookcase. My question for you, because I don't personally know this, as far as businesses go, is it common for people to have two ledgers?
No.
Okay.
So what's going on here, and it was kind of said before, so it's not really a spoiler.
Yeah.
There's indications that Catherine and Ben have been trying to shut down the mill in some way.
Yep.
Right? And that Catherine said how the mill's finances are basically running out.
Yeah.
That they're slow bleeding the mill out of its money.
Yep.
And they're hoping Josie doesn't catch on to that. However, they might have to start a little fire to get it to happen a little quicker. They're getting a little eager for the mill to actually close. And if it's not going to slow bleed out, then let it all burn down.
Yeah, effectively, it's just the sort of counterfeits just to show what is presented versus
So the
what is
second
live.
ledger being, yes, an alternate counterfeit version they've probably been showing Josie, but the real one's been hidden, which shows that you're in the hole. Which you'd think, I feel like so few people must know about their accounting information to make this even happen.
Yeah.
But they're, whatever is going on, Catherine's paying off anyone else who could possibly know. Or Ben is paying off, probably Ben. We don't know exactly what they all stand to get out of this deal.
Yeah.
But there's something going on. Obviously, Catherine doesn't like Josie, so there's that personal vendetta as well.
I think that overall, if there's one thing Ben might need is just either more influence or more power. Maybe he might be able to buy out more land for
He
Norwegians.
needs more power. He needs more. Give Ben everything he needs.
No.
Justice for Ben.
No. There's yes and then there's just
Also,
no.
fun little note that we do find out that Catherine and Pete, while married, Pete and Catherine sleep in different bedrooms.
Yeah.
That she doesn't want his dirty boots on her bed, and he fires back that, he'd rather have the oil or whatever he's working with on the boots on her bed sheets and not his own. And then basically she kicks him out of her room. They fight again more like brother and sister than husband and wife, I feel.
Yeah.
Which is again interesting to think about what the marriage has become.
All I'm saying is that if I was married to someone who constantly got fish inside the coffee pot, I might be a little bit upset too.
So you're telling me here you sympathize with Catherine, but not Nadine?
No.
Oh my God.
No.
Unplugged Professor, you are unplugged from reality.
That is true, but no.
Okay.
Anyway, go
And
on.
then the last one I had, I gotta open my journal back up. There's a little quote where Audrey is talking with Donna. We've talked about that scene a little bit with the dancing. But before the dancing, Audrey asks, did Laura ever talk about my father? And Donna asks, why? And Audrey says, well, my father used to sing to her. And then that's about it. And then Audrey just gets up and starts dancing like randomly in front of Donna without provocation. And I imagine Donna was quite confused.
Yeah, I have strong feelings towards the sense that, like the Jack place, the perfume counter, is where the father had met.
Safe
Laura
to say
commonly.
that we have a lot in this episode that makes us curious on exactly Ben Horn's knowledge of and relationship with Laura Palmer. Is that fair to say?
That was fair to say.
Audrey, we've getting mixed messages. Some people she says, oh, that we're very close. But that seems to be more manipulative. When she's telling the truth, she's like, yeah, not really close, but she did help my brother Johnny.
You know what's also nice?
Which maybe she's pretending to care about her brother, though. Who knows?
You know what's also nice? With the song that kind of closes out everything, if you think effectively as the trumpets as the sort of standout birds inside of Land of Music, that overall is just a fun little metaphor that can be brought out.
So, Professor, I have one last question for you.
Yeah.
Who killed Laura Palmer?
As far as I am concerned, it may have been Future Cooper, because Future Cooper is strangely involved. There's future and past individuals, or potentially just people commonly named as one another. So he is very involved with the black coffee. I think that the black coffee may have burnt him a little bit as he spat out being too hot.
So the burnt coffee, bad Cooper is in the red room. That's mysterious and scary.
Yep, he is going to come forward and say, I killed Laura Palmer.
So I feel like kind of a synthesis. Your first, the pilot was Cooper. Second, we said it was supernatural forces. Why not supernatural Cooper?
Yeah, or maybe Cooper is the Great Lord Cthulhu.
With that being said, thank you. I had with that being said queued up as a phrase I was going to use whatever you said. I didn't realize that was going to be what I was following up with. So with that being said, thank you. Thank you for listening. Again, if you have any comments, questions, concerns, feedback at all, this is our third episode in. We're pre-recording these, so by the time these all drop, it'll be in the future.
In the future,
We'll be wiser, we'll be smarter, we'll be full of zest for life.
will we?
Will we? And we'd love to hear that feedback, though, at snakeeyedreams@gmail.com. No punctuation, no capitalization, no regrets.
No communism.
Thank you.